YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I'm excited to be bringing you some more of the Hunter and the Beast DLC. And tonight is going to be a lot of fun. I get to show you some of the units for the Empire, and Markus Wulfhart, who you'll become very familiar with, who leads the New World expedition for the Empire in both Mortal Empires and the Vortex campaign. He's a unique lord for the Empire. Probably the closest thing we have to him in the game is Snare in terms of just kind of a comparison and the fact that he's a foot archerman. Bowman. There's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so he's the only other foot bowman outside of maybe if you decide to bring a glady or something else like that. But anyway, here we go. Who is Markus Wulfhart? Well, much like the trailers that you've seen and the lore that you may have read, he is a monster hunter, which makes him specifically good against large targets and well-armored targets. He has a very unique set of skills. A set of skills that makes him a nightmare for Dread Saurians like you. No, seriously though, all of the Liam Neeson memeing aside, he is going to be really good in fighting monsters. So there's a few of his abilities that I want to point out real quick. While I'm doing this, I'm going to splice in some footage from him in action so that you all can enjoy it. Okay, so the first ability I want to talk through is Fleet-Footed. Now, Fleet-Footed is a constant augment to Markus Wulfhart, and if an enemy is within 70 meters of him, he gains 18% acceleration and 18% speed. Now, from the acceleration, it's not really a stat that's visible to us, but from the speed standpoint, he pops up to about 43-ish whenever the enemy is in there, which makes him plenty fast enough to kite anything on foot for the most part. So it makes it very handy because he fires in a 360-degree arc. His missile damage is 556, and out of that, there's a pretty serious armor-piercing component. It's 280, and then there's a 120 bonus versus large. So he is definitely very handy when being used against a large creature. He has a range of 180, 45 ammunition, so he can crank out quite a bit of damage. Now, the downside for Markus Wulfhart is he's only 50 armor. He does have 58 melee attack, which isn't too bad, but only 360 weapon strength. So he won't be good in a lot of fights up close with much of anything due to his low armor, lack of shield, and low weapon strength. And the armor piercing on his weapon strength is also pretty low at only 90 out of that 360. He does have the ability for stalk, which means he can move while not being seen as long as something hasn't spotting him, and he can fire while he's moving. So the other abilities that Wulfhart gets, though, as far as specific abilities, he has a hex called Hunter's Snare. It has a 30-meter effect range and can be targeted on an enemy up to 100 meters away, and it locks them in place for a short period of time. It's an 11-second thing. This is great, though, because this gives him the ability to use his next special ability in a very good way, holding an enemy still for focused shot. This is a magic missile with a 250-meter range. It has to be targeted on a single entity. Can't be used against groups. And it says it's a scaled projectile. That basically the damage is scaled against combatants with missing health, so I think that the more damage they are, the more damage it's going to induce. It's kind of a good way to snipe off a lord who's already taken quite a bit of damage. It does cause magic damage, and it's meant to be used against large, well-armored combatants, obviously, again, single entity. Now, in terms of special items, he also has the Amber Bow. And the Amber Bow is another magic missile. Now, this is several missiles, though, not a single one, like you saw in the other. It is magical damage. It's used at, obviously, it can be used at a long range, and it's going to be good again against large combatants, and it's really meant to be used against a single combatant, though this one doesn't have a specific option that forces it to only be targeted on single entities. All right, so the next thing I want to talk through real quick, it was a little something I put together for fun. I'll be able to show you more of this soon, but for now, I figured this would be kind of a fun way to introduce some of the new units here. Specifically, I have some Huntsmen and I have some War Wagons. I call this army Pyromaniac. That's right, we're going to have some fun with it. The new Huntsman General that has been added in this DLC has some very unique fire-focused abilities. And again, you will see these in combat in just a minute. I'll cut into some battle footage where I'm going to show you this army in a niche up against the vampires. So I know I'm making this a best case scenario. I brought a bunch of vampires who have the regen trait, making them weak to fire. But that's part of the fun of this, right? You put these builds together and you get to enjoy seeing them in their niche. So in this case, I have a Bright Wizard, and he is going to be bringing Kindle Flame for extra damage versus, or extra fire damage versus units while he's casting. And then as far as spells, I have a Fireball, and then Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Burning Head. Some very useful stuff. Now, as for this Huntsman General, the first thing he has is this Oil Flask. It's a very short range, and it's a missile kind of, but it's almost like he kind of lobs it. And it can miss. I have seen it miss. I hope CA works on that, because boy is it frustrating when it misses. You only get 3 uses, and they're 90 seconds in between. However, whatever this thing hits, okay, it gives it a plus 50% flame weakness, and then takes away a ton of speed, which makes them an absolute sitting duck, especially if you're using this Hail of Fire, which is the second ability here, which gives a 40-meter effect. It's an augment for anything in that 40 meters that gives plus 30 reload skill, which is a lot. And then it adds fire damage. Couple that up with some Huntsman. You put down, this flask is relatively short range, so you got to be careful. But you get this on a big unit that's weak to fire. It's going to be weak to fire, especially. And then you combine it with something like this, and you are going to wreck, where you combine it with some Knights of the Blazing Sun, something that has fire damage. Now, the last ability it has is Arrow of Akshai? If I say it right, I don't know. Anyway, this is a fire damage projectile. The powerful explosion, again, it's meant to be used. This one is supposed to be targeted on multiple opponents, but if you have something weak to fire, it should work just fine when you get it. As far as special items, it does have the Glittering Scales armor, which is pretty nice at debuffing some melee attack on nearby enemies, especially since this guy really doesn't want to be in melee. His melee ability is fairly similar to Wulfhart, with maybe just a hair less in a few particular stats, like melee attack and defense is considerably lower, armor is 5 lower, the missile damage, ammunition, everything else is pretty similar. Let me go show you this army in action. Alright, on the battle map here, I first want to show you these Black Lions War Wagon with the Hellblaster volley gun. This is a Regiment of Renown. Very cool looking unit, very fun to use. It's a little bit better mobility, obviously, than a Hellblaster, but the same old Hellblaster fun. I have the White Wolves, who are here as well. This is a Regiment of Renown Huntsman, and they do extra damage as well as being better in melee. Here is my Huntsman General here, looking particularly angry and ready for combat. And then off in the distance, I have the Vampire Sacrifices. Yes, sacrifices must be made to satisfy the fire gods here. So I'm going to let you all catch some of the action here from their perspective. You can see the Black Lions there unleashing some devastating shots onto these Cryptors. Again, I brought all kinds of units that suffer to fire just to really get the point across about the entertaining points of this army. Now you're going to see that my Huntsman open fire, and there I'm going to go ahead and use as a special ability that now enables flaming attacks on those units. So now they are going to be causing extreme damage to the Cryptors. So the volley gun and both my Huntsmen and the Cryptors are also a large unit, so they are suffering in every way imaginable under a withering, devastating volley of missile fire that you can see has almost eliminated the 3 Cryptors. I'm going to send the infantry into combat, but wait, there's more, folks. The magic doesn't end there. So I'm going to get the Oil Flask going. Here it comes. You can see it hit that that poor Vargulf, who's going to be targeted immediately with the Fireball. And then I'm also going to get the magic missile off from the Huntsman General. And let's look at the damage. He is almost dead, and then he just crumbles from the shot. So very quickly a Vargulf goes out, and the Pyromania continues. The Burning Head ripping through the Vampire Infantry. And then I've also got the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So the fire damage continues. The Knights of the Blazing Sun ripping through to the Necromancer. And now I'm also going to start moving a few of my units and getting ready to get in position and take out the Master Necromancer and his Necromancer goon. So I'll let you all catch this. This should be pretty entertaining. I want you to see how quickly, again, when you get these niche units in their right spot, how effective they are, how fun they are to use. I love this stuff in Warhammer. how certain things kind of have this niche that they get into, and it creates a very, very fun experience. So in this case, you can see the corpse cart moving over here, but he's not going to be in good shape. He's got Huntsman after him. He's going to have the Bright Wizard after him, Fireball, the Hellblaster volley guns. So you can see that an army like this is very, very good at picking off single entity or large units. I'm going to follow up the death of the Necromancer with a quick hit from my Knights of the Blazing Sun, which will come in and leave the vampires absolutely reeling and disintegrating back into the grave from whence they came. So, Pyromania, folks. What do you think? I'm super excited. Super excited. This DLC isn't huge by way of just like the units per se that they've added, but there's a lot of really unique content coming with it, and I can't wait to share that with you over the next coming days. One thing to keep an eye out for, I was going to do a live stream on Thursday. I've had to back that up again because I have a special project coming up. But all that means is that if we wait till Friday, I should be able to stream this with you all, and we can cover it in a lot more detail. So that's why I'm pushing back to Friday. We're going to push Community Night to Friday. And on Community Night, what I'm going to do is a community Q&A. You all can ask me questions about the DLC. And I'll have it up. We can test the units. We can play with it. I'll try and get Dov Plays or maybe Indie Pride or other people to drop by who also have early access to the DLC so we can experience it. And then I'll probably play some campaign so that we can enjoy it. So in any case, hope you are ready for that. But I mean, this is just a demonstration of some of the units that have been added for the Empire. Markus Wulfhart, a unique lord. Very interesting once that fleet-footed comes into play, and then with the damage, he causes a lot of damage, especially against those large units. And then this Huntsman general with the fire, this thing is going to be a lot of fun. And you can see here how up in a niche against certain vampire builds or vampire coast builds, this crap would just absolutely own. Depending on the situations, of course, and it makes it very fun, right? It creates another build that the Empire can have fun with. I love how it synergizes with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, synergizes very well with the Huntsman, and also with a more mobile artillery piece, kind of like the Black Lions that can get around and do some damage. So I love the facets that this adds to the Empire in certain matchups. So do hope that you all have enjoyed this particular quick look at the up-and-coming DLC. What are you excited for in this DLC? What do you want to know more about? Again, make sure to join me Friday. Subscribe so you make sure you get the notifications, especially click that bell. Otherwise you won't, and it's YouTube, and you may not anyway, but please click it. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor. Get up there and hit the like button. If you didn't like it, get down there in the comments and tell me what you think I should do better. And if you don't have to just comment if you don't like it too. I always love comments that are constructive, asking questions, or otherwise conversing with the other folks there. So thank you all very much. I will see you soon. HeirofCarthage, signing out.